Hello, everybody. Welcome to Relentless and Unstoppable. Today we have a guest, Ken Dunlop, and my co-host, Doug Kenny. Welcome, Ken, and hello,
Thank
Doug.
you. Hi.
Hey, Brendan, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, thanks.
Where are you at the moment?
I'm in Melbourne at my home.
Nice. Where are you at, Ken?
Yeah.
In sunny Sydney.
Awesome. Happy Mardi Gras.
Yes. It all kicks off this Sunday.
That's awesome.
So have you prepared for the Mardi Gras yet?
Yeah, we've got some friends coming out from the US and some friends coming up from Melbourne actually. So it's going to be a very busy period for us because we take them all around Sydney and they give us their little list of things they want to go to and the Blue Mountains, all the scenic places they want to go to, and plus we've got a lot of Mardi Gras events. So there's the opening concert. There's on the 5th of March, the closing concert is going to be closing day. It's a whole walk across the Sydney Harbour Bridge. So they're closing the whole bridge for the day. So it starts on the other side, and I think it's about a 5-kilometre walk all up. So you walk all through there to the city. So it's going to be about 50,000 people crossing the Harbour Bridge all at once. So it'll be fantastic.
Definitely. Are you going to be part of it?
Yes, we've got our tickets. So it's free, but you have to register online.
That's awesome. So fire away, Brendan.
Where did you live before you moved to Sydney? We were talking about it before, but just so people know, like you grew up in Melbourne. I
grew up in Maui, up in Gippsland, Victoria. I was there until I was about 11. Then we moved down to Melbourne. So I lived in Glen Iris from the age of 11 to probably the age of 19 before I made the move to Sydney. And I loved it. I still call Melbourne home. I still love Melbourne, and I'd love to live back there one day.
That's awesome.
That's awesome, man. So tell everybody what you're known for.
Known for professional wrestling. I was a wrestler from 1978 to 2000. So I started training at the age of 16 down in Melbourne and had my first match at 17. And my last match was about 3 weeks before my 40th birthday. So it was a pretty long career, and I loved every second of it. And I'd do it all again in a heartbeat.
Awesome. Who are your wrestling friends you have?
Oh, there's heaps. I've got heaps of friends still. A lot of guys I taught wrestling as well. So I'm still friends with a lot of the young guys I taught. And I mean, one of those guys was 16 when I first met him, and he's just turned 50. So it makes me feel really old to see these young kids all growing up into fantastic young men. And some of my wrestling colleagues, some of the fans, I became good friends over the years with some of the fans because they were very loyal. They used to drive all over Sydney to come to our shows, and I'm still in touch with quite a few, and I see them occasionally as well, which is great.
Awesome. That's great to hear. What's your funniest memory of wrestling in the ring?
Oh, there's quite a few. One we've already discussed, so I won't repeat that one. Just the interaction with people. One time we were doing a match with the midgets, or the little people they're called these days. Not allowed to call them midgets anymore, but we used to have a lot of fun with them. And it was my 30th birthday that day. So we'd organised, because we were the bad guys. So me and my partner, and our partner was called Mr. Big. He was the biggest midget of them all. And we had a birthday cake. So I went to the cake shop that morning and asked them to fill up a sponge, but I said, can you just double the cream? So there's heaps of cream and all that sort of stuff. And they presented it in the ring and they were singing happy birthday. And of course, the whole crowd, we had about 400 people in the crowd, all booing and yelling and screaming at us. But I left my legs apart so the good guy midget could run through the legs and, of course, throw the cake in my face. And the cake went everywhere, went all over the screens in the club. And, of course, then that upset the club manager because all the curtains got covered in cream. So we had to get all the curtains all dry cleaned. So it cost us about $150 to get them all dry cleaned. But it was just fun. The crowd loved it, and it was just fun.
Awesome. Fire away, Brendan.
When did you start wrestling? Like what sort of time was it, in your teens or?
Yeah, I started learning when I was 16, and I trained for just over a year before I had my first match. So that was pretty confronting in those days because you're looking at beginning of 1977, and so I was learning wrestling. And in those days, wrestling was a pretty tough macho sport, and so I was sort of dealing with that, and that was my high because I always wanted to be a wrestler from the age of 7 or 8. But I was also dealing with my sexuality, so that was still a big hurdle to cross, and it was still illegal to be gay in Australia in those days as well. So I was on a real high from the wrestling, and then I was on that low, sort of like with my sexuality, just sort of trying to come to terms with it and deal with it. And of course, in those days, there was no helplines. I didn't know any gay people to help. So yeah, it was a bit of a struggle at first.
Yeah, for sure. Didn't you say you fell asleep for a few days at one point?
Yeah, I was very foolish, and I think I was about 20 or 21. I had enough that I attempted suicide, and I took a handful of sleeping tablets and some alcohol, and I went down to Bondi Beach, and I was going to throw myself off the rocks. Lucky enough, a jogger came along. I don't know who he was, but he saved my life. And the next thing I know, I woke up. I was in my bed. I don't know how I got there. I don't know anything. I don't remember anything. And I thought it was the next morning because this happened on a Friday night. And so I went to the local store on the corner to get the newspaper, and it was Monday. So I'd missed Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, I just slept that whole time. So that was a real scare, a real fright.
Mm.
Yeah, for sure. That's really pretty interesting. Did you sleep well that night, or was it hard since you slept a lot?
I don't remember much about that day because I was in a total panic because I sort of remembered what I'd done, and I was sort of like in shock. And I had 2 gay friends who were really good, close gay friends, and I rang them both, and one of them had his good friend was a psychiatrist, and he got me to ring her. So I rang her, and she agreed to see me straight away. So I went and sat with her and talked to her for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and that made me feel a lot more comfortable. And so then I rang my boss and I said, look, I told my boss what happened, and I just said, look, I need some time off work. I need to get my head cleared up. So I went down to Melbourne, just be with my family, and that's when I came out to my family because I hadn't come out at that stage, even though most of them sort of guessed anyway. But so that sort of lifted the burden and made life a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. Have any questions on that?
Guess it would have been hard because you weren't allowed to come out at that time, which was terrible. So yeah, it's hard to like hide yourself. You're not allowed to express yourself back then, so it would have been really hard. Yeah.